There's a common perception of good AI in video games. The more stubborn and invincible the enemies are, the higher the AI game. Bungie knew this well at the time of the first game of the Halo franchise. They had put two versions of the game ahead of the gamers. Both versions of the enemies were quite the same, and both used the same algorithm for artificial intelligence of the enemies. But in one version, the enemies had a lower line of health and shooting accuracy, and in the other version, the whole thing was the opposite. Only 8% of gamers thought the first version was very clever, compared with 43% of the second version. This suggests that most of the time, tough enemies who are hard to kill or are always chasing gamers can do well to induce them to be highly intelligent. But the main thing is that stubborn enemies aren't accountable for every game. ID Software originally wanted to make Doom, the 2016 product, so that enemies would always come after the player and surround him. But this made the gamer defensive, staying in place instead of surfing. But we know Doom because it's fast and violent, and the creators decided to force the enemies to stay where they are, and instead, it's the gamer who attacks them. This approach made Doom one of the most enjoyable first-person shooter games. In fact, good AI revolutionizes gameplay and shapes its particular mood. So AI isn't just about enemies with a high health line and incredible strength, but it can also change depending on the specific experience that the creators desire. Therefore, it can be concluded that the concept of good artificial intelligence goes beyond the enemies who can defeat the gamer. But what are the components of good artificial intelligence and how should it be? In this video, we will briefly mention each of them. Of course, this is different from that. In Skyrim, you could have fooled him by placing a bucket on an NPC's head and secretly stealing his belongings, and he would not notice any of your work. This isn't about good artificial intelligence. It refers to the stupidity of NPCs. But good artificial intelligence consciously allows gamers to have the upper hand in the game. In the Uncharted series, for example, when Nathan Drake is out of the cover, enemies don't have a chance to hurt him for a few moments, allowing the player to shoot at the enemies. Or in Far Cry, only a few enemies can shoot at you at the same time. Or in the Batman series, in the stealth stages of the game, when you are behind your enemies, the enemies will never turn their backs. All of these are components of games that, if they are absent from a game, can severely damage the experience of the audience. You've probably seen a lot of stealth games where, when you leave a door open, enemies come in and say out loud, "Looks like someone's there." Or, "Why is this door open?" is in fact because if the creators have the ability to choose from enemies, but don't shout them out loud, or don't demonstrate their capabilities using motion animations or other elements in the gameplay, the gamer may never realize that the enemy has this capability and may hurt his experience. It may seem a little strange as high intelligence is often measured by its unpredictability. But good AI in games actually has to be predictable so that the audience can plan and implement it. For example, if the guards always take the weapon they see on the ground to a certain location, or if the power supply is cut off, one of the guards checks it to turn it on. Then the player can use these repetitive behaviors to program or trap enemies. In fact, good AI doesn't show off its high intelligence. It allows the player to be smart. Imagine that the AI of adversaries is not predictable, and they behave one way half the time and behave differently in the other half. So the gamer makes a plan, but it only works half the time, which will make him unhappy. The game must have predictable actions, but its results must be unpredictable. Of course, being predictable doesn't necessarily mean being easy. Take Spelunky, for example, in which each of the enemies behaves completely predetermined. But it is enough for these same enemies to appear in large groups and interact with each other, then the game Spelunky is just getting. In Zelda Breath of the Wild, enemies pick up weapons dropped on the ground, even build bombs with them, or throw smaller enemies at you. Interaction with the environment makes them look smarter. In BioShock, an enemy who goes to a health device to revive his life inspires the player to be aware of his surroundings, and therefore seems smart to him. And of course, the gamer can destroy him by setting traps on these special health devices. A good example of this is the artificial intelligence of Batman games. In this series of games, as you remove enemies from your path, their remaining companions become more and more afraid and weaker. This is more complicated with Shadow of Mordor. In the game, orc captains are randomly created with names, abilities, and relationships, and can remember their interactions with the gamer. For example, if you're unaware from a battlefield, it will come up as soon as the orc that saw you on the run meets you again, and will refer to this issue. It's a great way to create special and memorable moments that at the same time create personal stories for the player. Artificial intelligence reacts to gamer too, in adapting it to open game actions. In Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, for example, enemies will check things like the number of headshots, the times you have taken over bases without being seen, and so on, and adapt to it, and their behavior changes. For example, they wear helmets or set traps and use night vision. Of course, this is not learning artificial intelligence, but things that are already defined for enemies that make them appear smarter and prevent players from using a specific strategy to capture each base. Alien Isolation has a similar system. In this game, Xenomorph discovers new capabilities along with the journey in the story, which makes it look like it's learning. The same was used in a game like Left 4 Dead, where enemies were also learning new capabilities depending on their health and the protagonist's progress. But the system is even older than you think. The system is also used in a game like Pac-Man, where ghosts attack the player in groups but switch between two modes of chasing and roaming around the environment to give the player a chance to breathe. Exactly this point shows that good AI goes beyond just killing the game's main character. For example, in a game like Rain World, the rest of the animals hunt and find food, and the gamer can take advantage of this opportunity to escape from them. Or, in a game like St. Alkir Shadow of Chernobyl, bandits have their own plans and may even encounter groups of them and fight each other. Of course, the AI of this game has many technical bugs and flaws, and you need to pour different mods to work properly. A great example of this happens in The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. In a documentary video about the game's design, one of the designers points out that during construction, they noticed that one of the palaces was constantly attacked by the people of the city, and that all its valuables were being looted. This was not the case in the game. After many investigations, the AI team had forgotten to set a rest time for one of the palace guards. After 8 hours of watching, the guard feels hungry and goes to the nearest diner. The head of the palace guard notices the absence of the guard, and since he was absent at the hour when he was his guardian, he and the other guards go to search for him. Ordinary people realize that the palace is empty of guards, and inform each other and enter the palace and loot its valuables. In a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, this is the culmination, where each character has its own purpose and lives in the true sense of the word. You can chase each of the NPCs and discover that he is engaged in different activities and lives his own distinct life from the other characters. In addition to enemies, companions must also have good artificial intelligence, although sometimes creators cheat. For example, in BioShock Infinite, during the fight Elizabeth doesn't get hurt at all, or in The Last Guardian, Trico helps the gamer take down enemies. In a game like Event Zero, you could talk to an artificial intelligence and use it to solve puzzles. Or in Final Fantasy XV, one of your companions can take different photos of you during each mission, and then show you those as photo albums. This greatly enriches and makes the player's personal experience special. In this context, we should also mention the creative use of artificial intelligence tools. For example, Immortality is a great and creative example of using object detection. With this tool, the game's creative director was able to tell his story. It turns out that good AI is not just about the invincible enemies. It's much deeper and more complex. Good artificial intelligence actually defines the overall mood of the game. A place that allows the player to cheat, to recognize its various features and use them to plan and implement their own programs.